can you be fast? Can you be quick? Can you think on your feet quickly? We need an idea now. Like, we don't have 24 hours. We need to fix this now. People come to me and they're like, oh my gosh, how do you start a business? I'm not a good baseline.
Yeah, you kind of were forced into it.
Yeah. And I really don't think I would have started a business when I did had the world been the same. I do find that people come to me and still ask me, like, what is marketing? Like, what is PR? Like, specifically, what do you do? And it's like, to be able to, like, I mean, that was one of the first things I did when I started my company was, like, define my services and what specifically I thought I was good at. And I really just started making, like, pro-con lists of, like, what my strengths and my weaknesses, you know, like, what that looks like. And do I feel confident enough to deliver on, you know, certain things? And was able to, like, narrow that down to just, like, fewer things versus trying to be all-encompassing.
Sure.
Because I've been in companies that were all-encompassing.
Yep.
And I got to a point where I was like, wait, guys, we can't be number one at all of these things. You know, like, I mean, I know some people can be, but I just felt like it was hard to say, man, we can crush these 1,000%, you know, from start to finish, you know, but they were all so different. So having the same people run all of those, I was always a little weary of, you know, just like over promising and under delivering.
Well, especially in marketing nowadays, like, I think some do it inadvertently.
Yeah.
And others do it on purpose to overpromise, to like get the
business.
business. I got to get the client excited, otherwise they're not going to work with me. And others, like, because marketing is all like ideas.
Sure.
Ooh, we could try this, we could try that. 100%. And a business owner hears, hey, you came up with 5 good ideas, so hey, get started.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, but in order to do that, we might need another person. We need a budget. Like, I can't just like pull clients out of the air for $17 with a Facebook ad.
Right? Yeah.
What was the process of like refining the services you offer? And was it kind of like a mental exercise of like, I don't know if this is really my thing, or was it from saying you could do it and then, oops, I can't really do this. Yeah.
I will say, so my business is a classic like pandemic story. Was working for a firm in Charlotte before. We were all furloughed. But I was leading that group. So I was like the Charlotte lead, the other office was in Atlanta. So anyway, so I was the main client lead on like all of them and had people, you know, underneath me that helped with the accounts. All that to say is I got to a point where we were furloughed, but the same like clients, but also like other people reaching out saying, I need help. Like, this is, you know, unprecedented times. Word was so abused, but it really was a panic of what do we do? And more, not necessarily like what do we do, but how do we communicate what we're doing today? Because it was such a day-to-day, you know, literally what are we doing today? Like, what is the state of the world? You know, what can we do?
Right.
Funny enough, like my first client was Skill Pop. Haley Bohan reached out and said, hey, obviously all of their classes were in person. And she goes, all right, we are doing everything online and we're doing it. We're launching it in T-minus, 2 weeks. Can you help? And I said, yes. You know, we had worked together through like some of my old clients had done classes for her, if that makes sense. So anyways, we were able to like immediately start and like create a plan. And so really off of what I offered before at the previous firm, there were things that I knew that they offered that I was like, nope, not doing that. So I would say very quickly, I was like, okay, I know I can do PR, but I'm doing PR for Charlotte region and Carolinas, like max, you know, like I did some stuff in Raleigh, done some stuff in Atlanta, Nashville is like the furthest I've gone. But that's more like that's just like one-offs, if that makes sense. So I would say like I stay in the Carolinas, like Southeast region, but really honing in like Charlotte, and that kind of came over time of like starting larger and then coming smaller, if that makes sense. Marketing services, I said like I love copywriting, I love to write, I love branding, and I love figuring out voices. And so on the marketing side, I was like I can help you with any of your like branding items or like website, and then like newsletters, and then I also but that's where I started, like, stopped with marketing. I was like, I'm not doing SEO. I'm not doing, I do some social media ads, but like you said, like very small, like targeted, hey, $250.
Right. In Charlotte, people who like food.
100%. Like, and I'm like, I'll go on the back end. And I obviously know how to do that kind of thing. And I offer social media services too. And then, it expands to, I call myself a glorified secretary in the communication space. Like, do you want to do events? I will also do events for you. Like, I will help you plan those. Is it a media event? Is it a content creator event? Is it an event happening in Charlotte that you want to be a part of, but you want to create a unique partnership that makes sense to you in that group? So it's a lot of introductions, and that's kind of like why I consider myself more the secretary. It's like, who needs the news? Who needs the information? Is it consumers? Is it media? Is it content creators? Is it another, partnership or, group in Charlotte? And so really a connector, if that makes sense. But pretty quickly I was like, okay, this is what I like to do. This is what I feel like I'm good at. And how can I use my strengths essentially to propel others?
Yep.
I think my dad definitely like honed in on that, like very young for me, of just like, you're good at this. Like, let's work on this.
Double down on what you're good at.
Yeah. It was not like, hey, we're not so good at this, but it was more of just like, man, like you seem to enjoy this.
Sure.
And like what lights me up. So yeah, that's kind of how it started that way and then morphed. You know, I worked with some companies at first that I was like, okay, for example, like Bold Music Lessons. Like I love those guys. George Ramsey and his team are fantastic.
Cool.
I have no music bone in my body. I was in choir, but like subpar alto.
Sure.
But I don't play any instruments. And so it was a cool way for me to say, okay, how can I apply, you know, what I like to do to something I really don't know a lot about.
Mm-hmm.
So from there, I was able to like hone in on like specifically, you know, what I feel like I can offer and what makes sense and what I'm naturally drawn to so that I can hopefully like under promise and over deliver on certain things.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Absolutely. Now, like in COVID, like when that's all happening,
Yeah.
Everyone has to abruptly change, right? So like as much as like the client's needs abruptly change, you are now playing a game that you've never played before on the fly.
Yeah.
But at least you had like the shared understanding. Client knows
100%.
this is really weird.
100%.
You know this is really weird. So
Yeah.
did you find that there was like more grace of like, hey, let's try this? And if you'd stepped on a landmine and it didn't work, they're like, okay, well, next thing.
Yeah. And I think honestly, you know, people come to me and they're like, oh my gosh, how do you start a business? And I was like, I'm not a good baseline. You know what I'm saying? I was so unique and I really don't think I would have started a business when I did had the world been the same.
Yeah, you kind of were forced into it in a way.
Yeah. And it was mostly because I didn't want to sit still and like being furloughed lasted about 2 days for me and I was like, I have to do something.
Yeah.
So what can I do? But it really also like more than that, people were saying I need help. And that is, I am like middle child. I'm a solver. Like you bring me and I'm like, I got to help these people.
Sure.
And so really that's where my thought went. And my husband came along and was like, okay, let's make this a business.
Yeah.
Like, let's make this legitimate.
Right.
You should do this. And I was like, oh, that's a good idea. So that's really, I just thought of it as like helping people versus starting a business.
The best businesses are the ones that can help people.
Right.
Like, because that's where like at least any sort of successful anything in the realm of marketing, the ones that can sustain and keep clients paying for like the second contract are like where like, hey, I'm helping you.
Yeah.
And like you can quantify, hey, look, you paid me X and you got Y. Like it would be foolish to let me go.
Yeah.
And if it's just about like, oh, yep, it's all for me and and you're not actually helping, there's a big difference. And you'd be surprised, maybe not you, but folks might be surprised about how many folks like are in it for them and they're not really, like it doesn't light them up to help others. What lights them up is
100%.
getting the contract.
100%.
You know?
I totally agree with that. And I actually see that a lot. You know, people ask me like, oh, like what makes you different? And I just think it's simple. Like I love who I work with and I love the people and I'm in it for the people.
Yeah.
We were talking earlier that I'm a terrible promoter for myself. Like I think I've submitted less than 5 RFPs since 2020. I mean, it's usually like, hey, people come up to be like, so-and-so gave me your information, would love to chat. And that's where we start.
Yeah.
And I'm very open and upfront when people come to me and say, this is what I need. And I'm like, hey, I don't think I'm your girl, but guess what? Great news. Charlotte has an amazing group of marketing PR professionals. Based off what you need, I'd recommend X, Y, or Z. And I've kind of built this community of like people I refer, you know, potential clients to. And it's a wonderful network. And, you know, some people, I'm sure my old bosses would like shake their heads at me and be like, that's not how we do it. Like, you know, we taught you better to like completed sale. And I don't know. I think I never want to lose sight of why I started the company, which was to help people. So if I'm not the best person for the job, you know, it's just stressful for everyone around.
Yes.
Like I feel like I'm under delivering. I feel bad. I feel anxious, which is probably something I should talk to my therapist about. Like I carry that a lot, like the weight of what I do.
Yeah.
Like I want to perform for others, especially if I tell you that I think I can.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say like during COVID, it was just a lot of how do we figure this out together? And so the partnerships that I was able to like create, I mean, I'm still working with the majority of people that I worked with back in 2020. And I think it's because we created this rapport of like, hey, you bring an idea, I bring an idea, we'll see what works, but we need to be executing really quickly. And I think that's where I thrive is like, I love to be at 1,000 miles an hour.
Sure.
Like if I'm at 50, I'm like, oh my gosh, I need something to do. Like and so I thrive in that chaos. I think that's also middle child-ish a little bit, you know? And so it's like fast-paced, like, can you be fast? Can you be quick? Can you think on your feet quickly? We need an idea now. Like, we don't have 24 hours. We need to fix this now.
Right.
What can we throw at it? So, you know, it's kind of been this constant. And honestly, since then, I don't think things have slowed down. And I think things have still, yes, that was unprecedented. Like, oh my gosh, what do we do? But it's shifted probably like, I mean, countless times since then.
Oh, yeah.
Of that same, not panic as much, but just, okay, people are not going out as much. Okay, what's happening with the world? Like, are we gonna, like, not leaving our homes as much anymore? You know, like, this news cycle in general, I think has just created, like, sense of fear in a lot of things. And how that trickles down into lifestyle and food, it affects it a lot. So how are you responding to it and keeping things like light and hopeful and, you know, will to live almost for some people of like, so, and just bringing that humanity back into it, I think is really important. So yeah, I just feel like it's been a constant, like, okay, we're keep rolling. What's the next idea? What are we doing? How are we staying in front of people? Which isn't abnormal. I think that's kind of how things were a little bit prior, but it's that same pace and like frantic nature, I almost feel like hasn't left us.
Yes, I would agree.
Yeah.
And I think a conversation I have with clients pretty often is something like whether it's tariffs or like inflation or like say post-COVID still some of the infrastructure of like stock and inventory and like delays on certain things and that sort of stuff. With these widespread like kind of macro world problems, it is in a way where it's affecting everybody.
Yeah.
So I've gotten to the like the metaphor where it's like the shittiest conditions of a football game you can imagine. Like rain, snow, frozen, whatever you imagine the shittiest football game ever. Like we still have to compete.
Yes.
And someone is going to win and
100%.
someone is going to lose.
Yeah.
So we can bitch and complain about the snow or like everyone, okay, it's snowing. We have to adapt our playbook.
Right, run a play.
Because we're playing in the snow today.
Yeah.
And it's different than if all things were great in the summer. And it's
100%.
We have to change our playbook, but we can't just throw our hands up and not compete.
I love that. Yeah.
And so, yes, the conditions suck right
beautiful.
now, but they suck for everybody.
Yeah.
And everybody has to outvalue their competition or like out creatively solve the problem, you know?
100%. Yeah.
So it's not just us, oh crap, this is just Charlotte.
Yes.
Or, oh, this is everyone.
Yeah.
So
everyone's in the same boat.
we have to
Yeah.
play in the shitty conditions if we want to make it through to the next game.
100%. Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. I love that. I'll credit you when I use that. Don't worry.
Okay.
Yeah.
I get a nickel every time.
Yeah,
right?
there you go.
One of the questions I have is when you're in that mode of kind of like, hey, I know how I can help people. And like, hey, my agency just furloughed everybody. And like, but these clients still need help. Right? You're noticing, hey, I can jump in and help these folks.
Yeah.
My 2-part question is like, at what point do you then, jump in and go, okay, hey, this is a business. Hey, in order to keep helping you, did you come up with like, hey, here's like a package and when this is over, we can reassess? Or did you come up with like a monthly retainer?
Yeah.
And how was that, kind of the ball bouncing around until you kind of were like, this is my package.
Yeah.
This is what I charge for the next person.
100%. That's a great question. I think with Haley, since Skill Pop was my first client, she was like, we're taking this at 2-week increments. Like,
Because we don't know how long we're going to be open.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And so she was like, hey, I'm going to pay you X, Y, and Z every 2 weeks. We will readjust at the end of 2 weeks. And so for me, I mean, I wasn't doing anything, And so I was tickled. I was like, I'm so excited. This is fantastic. And like I said, at that point in my brain, I was like, Haley needs my help. And she's a dear friend. And I'm also like, I have so much respect for the company she's built. And
you probably do it for free.
Yeah, no, truly.
Yeah.
And yes. And at that point, it was like, hey, this is what I have. And I was like, if you need to go lower, go lower. This is not, I never want what I do. And I still think this reigns true today is like, I never want to be in a hindrance to your company. And so that's a great thing about like having your own company is you can dictate that, so I can have conversations with people of like, okay, like what can you spend? So anyways, with her, that started very early of like, okay, what are you comfortable with? Let's run with it. We'll go from there. So gosh, I don't, time like doesn't exist in my brain of like how long we did that for, if I'm being honest. I feel like it was definitely a few months of just like, hey, every 2 weeks, let's reassess. And then it got to a point where she felt stable and she was like, okay, I can commit to like, a month or whatever it looks like. But then I would say like the other clients I started working with probably like Q2 and Q3 of that year, it really was like a slower build. And it was like 1 to 3 months. Like, hey, if you can commit to 3 months, fantastic. If you can't, understand. And, I feel like pretty quickly the companies that were able to adapt and change things were able to commit to longer quicker, if that
Sure.
makes sense. Restaurants wise, like was, once they were able to switch their platform to like delivery when people weren't able to dine in.
Right.
And then, we had the mandates of only a certain amount of people can dine in. But, I feel like the people who could adapt quickly to pickup and delivery, to go, family packs, that kind of thing. That's what FS Food Group did so amazingly well at that point. And they still do. But like that was, they were able to say, okay, we can work together, for a longer period of time because we're in a good
plan.
spot. Yes,
Okay,
like there's a plan, there's ready to go.
This is what we're doing.
Yes.
Okay, got it. Take a little breather.
100%.
At first, they're only able to think, and even 2 weeks was probably like, I don't know. Are we all going to be locked in our basements? Like,
Yeah.
Is it all going to be open up? We don't know. So it's hard to commit.
Yes,
And
100%.
But then on your side, was there almost like a little bit of like, okay, good. Yeah, let's take it 2 weeks because I don't need to come up with some roadmap,
Yes.
some 6-month roadmap that I don't necessarily feel confident in because
Yes.
of external factors.
100%. And I should say, too, they opened Little Mamas during the pandemic. And so because that was a new concept, I was clear to like work on that one.
Sure.
So I didn't touch the other concepts. I just knew that they were in a good place basically to bring on a third party for said opening because they had everything else settled, if that makes sense.
Yep.
But I would say it took probably until like in Q3 or like Q4. Now, granted, my husband's a lawyer, so the man contracts are his lingo. That's his language. So, he was the one to be like, hey, let's do a contract. And I was like, I would love for you to do that for me because I would not like to do that.
Right.
Thank you so much. The language still like drives me crazy of, why they have to position everything the way they do. I'm like, no one talks like this. Anyways,
Yeah.
so much love to lawyers. Thank you so much. I'm married to one and my father's one. We appreciate you. But he was the one who was really like, hey, this is like the basics, of like what I suggest. And then also like I send them to clients and I'm like, guys, if you have any questions, let me know.
Yeah.
Like this is not a trap. I have a 30-day out clause.
Yeah.
If you want to get out before your contract is over, honestly,
Just let me know.
Yeah. Like if it's
Yeah.
not working, like I'm not going to take you to court over no.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. And once again, maybe that's me not being a great salesperson for myself or a business person. But at the end of the day, it's such a personal business
Yeah.
for me. And so if it's not working, like I want you to go find someone who can do it for you. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? If I'm not your person, go find your person.
Yeah.
Because the clients that I've been working with for years where I feel like, oh my gosh, like this is great. We're working off each other really well. I feel like your person, like I want everyone to find that match.
Absolutely.
If that makes sense.
Well, especially with like your piece of like the marketing puzzle where
Yeah.
like you said, it is really personal. Like
Yes.
if you and the owner or the brand, whoever point of contact
Sure.
you're talking to, like aren't in sync,
Yeah, 100%.
it's not going to work.
100%.
Like,
Without question. Yeah.
Even say like someone like if I'm just running Google ads and maybe me and business owner kind of butt heads on the idea of where to
Sure,
go, but I can
direction,
still just
yeah.
be like, hey, look at the
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
results though, like because
Sure.
what's doing the real work
Yeah.
isn't you and our communication.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
yes, it's so like what I'm saying is like there are some things where it's like even if you kind of butt heads, you can kind of be like, hey, but the
100%.
results though.
Yes. Yes.
And with something like how do we position the brand if they aren't in sync with you, it's not going to work.
Yes.
So you don't want to keep them.
Yeah.
Because that, like you said earlier, like either if I can't do what you're asking me to do, or I can't do it well, there's going to come a point where it's then taking energy from
Yes.
what I do
Yep.
well and
Yep.
who I do work well with.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it takes a lot of experience as like starting a business to like realize that
Yeah.
and to know when to say no
Oh, 100%.
to save the rest of the group.
Yes. 100%.
And
Yeah.
that
like,
comes from experience.
mentally for sure. So I would say it took a while. And then, I still have contracts now. Like I love obviously the year contracts because I can mentally plan and prepare. And also from a media perspective, a lot of editorial calendars, for example, for like print placements,
Yes.
they work so far out in advance. And so for me to give you results, like, I mean, they work on things 3 to 6 months out, like some. So, we're already planning into next year for these kind of things. So if I don't have that buffer of at least a year,
Yeah.
you're just not going to be as satisfied, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But then, I have people come to me and I do a lot of openings. So, brands coming to Charlotte or opening in Charlotte, whether they're Charlotte based or otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
And those contracts can be anywhere between like 3 and 6 months. And so I've done over 35 openings in my
Wow.
career, which is really fun.
That's
I love
exciting.
the openings. And so, like I just helped Van Leeuwen open in Plaza Midwood. So obviously a New York based brand came to Charlotte. And even more so just like, welcome to Charlotte. It's really how can you be intentional about like opening in Charlotte? Like how are you going to be a part of the community? Because that's who Charlotte is.
Yeah.
Like that's very important to us as a city and
Yeah.
as someone who's lived here since 2017. Like I've adopted that myself. So, it's being in like intentional partnerships and relationships. And, but so, yeah, so I mean, I'll do certain hourly work for people too, if they want it. Like I said, when people come to me and they have a need, I'm like, if I feel like I can crush it for you, we'll make it work. Like if we'll, obviously there are certain parameters around that, but like there are certain parameters. And like if it's a certain person, like comes to me and is like, hey, I only have this much, I'm like, okay, we worked together in the past. We have a relationship. I know we work well together. It's going to take me, 3 hours versus 30 for a new person. So yeah, I think it's much more personal for me than, very structured, which is good and bad, I think. For a business, like I'm able to have, like I said, those yearly contracts, which help me give stability.
Yep.
And then I can add on there of like those opening projects, which ebb and flow,
Yes.
You can't plan on those.
Yep.
The additional hourly work, quote unquote, like project fees, I'll do those too.
Yep.
So, but I'm in a place of privilege also. Like my husband has a job and he likes what he does and it's consistent and I'm on his insurance. And so, like I'm very,
Ditto, Laura.
Yeah. Hey, like I'm very open and honest about that. I'm like, hey, like I'm able to be flexible in, my company because of what my husband provides.
Yeah.
I mean, I can go to the doctor thanks to him. Like there are a lot of things there that I don't take for granted for what I'm able to offer. And it's just me, I've thought about hiring people. I have contracted people out before.
Sure.
It doesn't make sense right now in my head because I'm willing and able to put in the extra hours if I need to. To take it on.
Yeah.
And like I said, my business is so personal, or the way I approach business is very personal. And so, I used to have a client that said, if you brought someone on, like I wouldn't work with them, and I kind of laugh and then I was like, but I get it, like we have a rapport, how I work, how I like will go above and beyond. If you call me on Friday at 9 p.m., I'm going to answer your phone call. I don't think it's fair for me to expect that level of overcommitment or maybe like just like too much, in someone else.
Yeah, and you'll never get it.
100%. That too. I'm very aware.
But you're right. But that's like okay.
Yeah.
Because then like maybe there will come a time where like, okay, so of all the tasks the business needs to get done, the ones that truly require a ton of care and
sure.
I'll do these.
Right,
but hey, these other 3 or 4, I'll teach you how to do it my way.
Yeah.
So that it's still my process. It's still
100%.
me. It's still the brand.
Yeah.
And you just do these 3 or 4 things for me.
Yeah.
And yeah, that is tough. But there might come a time, like if you are looking later on to like grow the business, you might find someone who views the business the same way you do, but their skill is maybe in like instead of
complimentary something.
Yeah, something like,
exactly.
okay, hey, look,
Yeah.
I'll handle clients like this, but when I get clients like that, hey, you're actually maybe a better fit.
100%.
So together now the company can do more.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like more having a partner, I think, than
like some because
if
then
that makes sense.
Back to the hey,
I could see that. Yeah.
If we're gonna work together, you need to go above and beyond like I am.
Yeah.
So in order to entice you to do that, here's a plan where you can like become an owner.
100%.
Step by step.
Yeah, and like have your own. I laugh. Like I love social media. Of course, we all do. But it's a full time.
Oh yeah.
It can be. And like I don't right now. Like I used to run many more social media accounts than I do now. I only run 3 right now. But I mean. And depending on like what your client needs are, I mean, you can make it a full time. I mean, as you know, like a full time thing. And so I do like if there ever were like a future of the company, I could see having a more firm like social media person, if that makes sense. And
go
like,
get the content. I'll put it together and post it, but you go get it.
Yeah. Or I mean, just like own that, And like I have a lot of people reach out to me and say, I just need social, and frankly I don't take a lot of those contracts because that's a different person in my mind. Like if you want more of an encompassing like approach to PR marketing and social being a part of it, like I'll have the conversation. But if you just want social, it doesn't make sense. And I will say, and this is a shout out to all the creators out there, we all need to increase our rates because the quotes that I get back from people are just like for social, or they're like, hey, I'm looking for someone to, work $10 a month. And I'm like, excuse me?
Yeah.
Like what? And so, I do think as a whole, like Charlotte could increase the rates of social media management. And I think that'll come with time as that becomes like a more normal conversation, especially like in the hospitality scene. But yeah, in terms of like rates, I'm like, no, it doesn't make sense for me to do that for X. Like that, just like that's not a great use of my time, if that makes sense.
Sure.
So yeah, there are certain things like in the business that way I've thought about it, but yeah, I'd also want to do it really well if I hired someone, like make sure they like got benefits and like there was health insurance and and I think I'm just being selfish right now and like just simplifying. But I will say, Ted Williams, shout out Ted, is like, I consider him one of my mentors, even though he's like, I don't want to be that. I'm like, okay, well, you are for me. So, we've just had like conversations over the years that I've held on to, but he was like, stay as lean as you can for as long as you can. And it just makes sense for me right now to be that way. I'm able to be very nimble when it's just me and take on things that, make sense that like I feel like I can, deliver. And so for right now, it's good. People are like, oh, what's the, trajectory of the company? I'm like, make it to tomorrow.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, like that's.
Yeah. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think a lot of people get caught up in, okay, now that I have, like, my business is doing well, I've got to 10X it. What's my plan to like 10X? I got to build and sell this thing. And it's like, it is okay to be like, I'm pretty comfortable. Either I have like some free time or like I really like what I do and I don't want to like grow and like take on things that I don't like. I'm glad that you feel like, no, I'm pretty good. Like I kind of want to stay. If I can maintain here and get to tomorrow, that's
100%. Yeah. What's funny is like I kind of blinked and I was like, whoa, you've had your company for 5 years. And I think I've really just like maintained that mantra of just like, okay, literally one day at a time.
Yeah.
My mom used to say that growing up all the time. And I was like, ugh, and I was like, oh my gosh, she's so right. It really is.
Damn
just
it,
like,
Mom.
I know. I mean, there's so many things that she said. I was like, I'm sorry, you're right.
Yeah.
But it really is like, how can I focus on today? And I mean, that's in so many different areas of life of trying to apply that for me, but professionally it's just like, okay, what's on the to-do list for today? Like what can help you get to your goal, closer essentially like tomorrow, if that makes sense. So yeah, also like try not to be like too attached to like my business. I love what I do, like maybe a little too much,
Sure.
in the sense where I don't really turn it off.
Yep.
So like if we're, going out of town, I will.
Ooh,
I mean, I'm
answering
on
the emails.
Oh yeah, I'm like constantly, Chase is like, give me your phone. Like I feel like a child. He's like, relax. It's Saturday at 4 p.m. Like, come on.
Yeah.
And I don't say that because I'm like, oh my gosh, she's so busy. It's more of just like, I genuinely love what I do.
Yeah.
And so like, it's hard for me to turn it off.
Yeah.
All that to say is I don't know what the next little bit looks like. I'm just trying to enjoy and really just like help today.
Yeah. And that's totally fine.
We'll see what happens. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
My goal is to enjoy it. That's the goal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so of the 30, did you say 33?
It's like over 35 now.
35.
I have like a list in my phone of all of them. Yeah.
Of the 35 openings.
Yeah.
Now that like the openings have come and gone, and now they have some history or like some success that you could talk about. When someone's coming to Charlotte and they're opening up, what are some of the things that like, hey, that one went really well because of X, Y, and Z versus like, this one didn't work well. And now in hindsight, I see maybe it was because of this or that. Yeah. It's like coming to Charlotte, what if someone wants to open a restaurant? Like when is the right time to engage a PR professional?
Yes. Okay.
And what are like the key things? Look, if you're going to do this, you've got to get this right.
Yeah. That's such a great question. It's changed so much over the years, I would say. Like pre-pandemic, obviously I was working for a different firm.
Yep.
And we were doing openings, and I felt like the ones that didn't go as well were like always exclusive drama, like exclusivity, who you're giving it to, like from the media space.
Give it to the cool kids. Got to be exclusive sort of thing. Okay.
And I this is probably like middle school Callie. Like I'm not good with like exclusivity. I'm just like, no, everyone get along. We're gonna be fine.
A lot of people
like,
the business.
But it's such a game. It's a game, and there's strategy to it. So like we had one opening where like media rep like came in early, like before we were even announcing anything, and so it just became this panic of like, oh my gosh, what do we do? And so it's really like people who are not able to be flexible and also follow your lead. I know that sounds silly, but like when you're hiring a professional or like someone to be a third party and you kind of give them your own roadmap. So when someone gives me a roadmap, like I'm able to look at it and be like, all right, guys, like this is great, but like this is what's going to work in Charlotte, specific to the Charlotte market. And so I think back then I just didn't have the experience or the clout really like working for someone else to be able to confidently stand up and be like, that's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
Like not releasing this information until later. Like we're going to have people coming around and getting their own information, if that makes sense.
Yep.
I would say like ones that have been successful, they're all about like the people. Like I just helped Painted Rooster.
Yeah. I love that place.
Oh my gosh. Zach and Chrissy, their owners, are just like, they're fantastic people. And like they came and, kind of like my business model is to it's people based. So I met with them and immediately I was like, oh my gosh, these guys are like salt of the earth. Like they are pouring their hearts and soul in their business. And that's great. A lot of people do that, but they're taking it a step further and trying to be like more than just a restaurant, if that makes sense. And the community they're building, it's incredible, very intentional. Like make sure to check them out. But, that one just like felt very community driven, community forward. And so I think that's why they've been so successful is like they defined who they were and then they just ran with it. And they've been very consistent, but they've also like taken great feedback from the community of like, hey, we want to, we'd love to see this. We'd love to see that. And so like they're very thoughtful in that approach, which I think has been really helpful. I would say like other like brands. I just helped the club open their hybrid fitness and then co-working space, and then also have a coffee shop in their spot, and they're between basically Uptown and South End, near the bathhouse on the backside. So, anyways, and once again, like it was about their people. Like they put their members first. Everything was membership based. Even when we were sending the press release out, they were like, hey, we want our members to know first. Like, can you let us know? We went to them like an hour before you send it to media.
Sure.
And so it's really about just like being thoughtful and like hearing what they want, and like their business is filling a need, right? Like in their own sense. And so like my business needs to fill the need that business needs. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
That's kind of a backwards way to approaching it. So I try to be a good listener at first of like, what do you think? Like ideally, what's your best case scenario? And then if I see any things that I'm like, no, I don't think charlatans are going to like that, I will insert myself and say X, Y, or Z, or more than charlatans, it's like media, because that's my space and that's my game. And, and so I'm like, ooh, that'll ruffle some feathers. Let's not do that. Or love the idea. Like that'll go over well. Let's do this. So, I think it's just having like a consistent roadmap, but then like adjusting specific, left and right turns as needed based on the business.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. So you've got to kind of like they want to go in this direction, and you're like, all right, well, I'm not saying that you should change where you want to go. However, if you want to go there, we got to go this way.
Yes.
So you kind of like
100%.
Okay.
End goal is the same, I would say. It's more of love that idea. I love the end result, but I think you're going to get there in a better way this direction, if that makes sense. So, I mean, obviously at the end of the day, everyone wants like a lot of press. Everyone wants like a busy opening. So, they look to me like, okay, tidbits, like what do you suggest? And so I'm able to help just like move them in certain directions of just based off my experience of what I feel like works. And then they can tell me based off their clientele, they might already know them. For example, like the club had done some pop-ups before that. So, and they had pre-sale membership. So they knew their community a little bit already, which was fantastic.
Yep.
They'd run some classes in the past. So they were able to give a little more light than typically you get, prior to opening of like what their community actually wants or looks for or.
Yeah. Cause they might be guessing.
Yes.
We want people to like this, and this. And then the community might say, well, actually, we kind of like this, and that. And if you don't adjust, then it's not going to work.
Yeah. And it's like, hey, we think our, some people are like, we think our demographic is going to be X, Y, or Z. Like, we think it's going to be this. And then, like, over time, it's like, well, that was changed, and so it adjusts, which is kind of fun.
When that happens, when someone's like, I think my demographic is this, and then different demographic comes in.
Yeah.
How often do you find that there's, like, resistance? Or is it typically like, oh, great, I want customers.
Yeah.
Or is there sometimes pushback of like, hey, I know you want 40-year-old women, but 50-year-old guys love what you're doing. So do we change or like how does that, what's that look like?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I've had this a few times where it's kind of either been like, oh my gosh, we thought we were going to have much younger and we have older, or
oh no.
Yeah. Or
like that's a terrible thing.
Obviously the opposite too, but it's, it's like, we don't want to be riffraff. Like they're so young. And I'm like, okay, they actually causing problems? Or are you just like stereotyping that like younger people like drink more and are maybe a little bit more silly? I don't know, So I think it hasn't really become a problem, thankfully, with some people that I've worked with. It's just about like, okay, if you feel like the bigger question for me is if you feel like you're stuck on a certain demographic, how can you feed them but still attract others?
Yes.
And so that's kind of where my mind shifts is obviously like whoever's already naturally coming there, you're doing something right for them. How can you continue doing right by them and attracting other people? Because in Charlotte, you always have to be top of mind. It's a moving transient city. I think the average is like 130 people move here a day.
Yeah.
I feel like they're getting younger and younger. That just means we're getting older
We're
and
getting
older.
older.
Darn it. And so it's how can you stay top of mind to this group of people? And that's more of the bigger question for me is like, how can you create a larger audience versus like more niche? And so I really haven't had, people fight like, oh, like, no, we don't want them to come anymore. It's more of just like, how can we reach more?
Yeah.
I think that's the bigger question that people pose to me from like especially like PR and marketing. And then when it comes to like events and activations, like I'm always thinking, okay, what's a fun way to get these people in here?
Yes. Without ignoring who's in here
100%,
already.
yeah.
I think some people get that wrong.
Yeah, I think you're right. Where it's like, no, not them. Like, must do these guys. I'm like, guys, like, there's enough. Like, you can do enough for everybody
Yes.
to like feel comfortable and home. And a few years ago, I used to work with Billy Sunday and Optimus Hall.
Nice.
R.I.P. Loved them. And I was like, guys, Chase and I love to travel, and we were like seeing all these like pop-up bars in New York, which is not a new phenomenon. Let's just make that very clear. But I came back and I was like, guys, like, what would you do about a pop-up? Like, would you do a Christmas pop-up or a holiday pop-up where you do a month-long something? That thought process of like not necessarily pop-up, but like a theme or like an activity or using like that space to like bring in new people. So like even if you're trying to bring in like Roots Cafe, for example, has a game night on Wednesday nights where like they're trying to bring in like more of like the local community like right around there where they have like a ton of games like on site and they have these like drink specials and it's like something like that versus like a themed pop-up or you're going to have like some holiday drinks or you're going to do a luau themed in the summer. And so they're just like fun, like low effort, it's not a ton of things for like the team to do in addition.
Right.
But like fun ways, like media also likes to talk about that kind of stuff because it's fun and it's anything that's new, even if you're not new.
It's
like
something to do.
Yeah, something to do. It's like what can you and your friends, do on the weekends or whatever it is. So that's a very small, like short example of like how to differentiate who you're attracting. And, for example, if you're going to do a pop-up, like your people that are already coming, like they already love your cocktails, so like if you do a themed additional menu, they're probably gonna be like, great, thanks so much. But like new people might come in and be like, oh my gosh, like I've been dying to try this and get a picture in front of that Christmas step and repeat, if that makes sense. So I don't think it necessarily changes like more day-to-day operations. It's just like, how can we be more all-encompassing? Yeah.
That's really interesting. Another question I just thought of is now like a lot of the PR is kind of like for new stuff.
Yeah.
We got this new place, this new company, this new brand that's not from Charlotte. They're coming to Charlotte. How different is that type of work versus like, oh, I'm talking to this family restaurant that's been here for 30 years and like they're not getting the coverage that they want. So like, is that different or is it the same game? You're just coming off the bench, time to get back in the game.
I love that question. That's great. Especially because like I do a lot of openings, but at the same time, it's like Mama Ricotta's is one of my clients, and I mean they turned 33 this past year, and so it is very different of basically like how to make them quote unquote new, if that makes sense. But I think it's just a different. I love working with people. Openings are great. They're fun. They're always going to get press. Fantastic. Like, that makes my job easy, right? Like, check, love
Something
it.
new and shiny.
Yes, exactly. But it's the people that stay on post, like, the 3 to 6 month contract that, like, I really love to work with. I mean, I love both, that's just for the record. But that make me stretch my brain for literally what you just said. Like, how do you continue to stay relevant in Charlotte if you're, a year open or 33 years open?
Right. More than the opening.
Yes,
now
exactly.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think for me, it's just positioning fun pops is what I call them, of things to talk about throughout the year. So like, are you going to have a special brunch for Easter? Are you going to have like a new dessert coming out soon? It's just like, how can you spin newness of something that's not new? And then it's like events, activations, additional partnerships. So I think it just depends like per client, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But that's really where like the community engagement piece comes to play. But then also like I'll, come back and I went to Craig Barber Roots Cafe. I think it was like end of last year. And I was like, hey, I like these Caesar wraps, chicken Caesar wraps. Like, I mean, there are, New York's one of our favorite cities. So I was like, there are people in New York who are like rating the best ones. And I was like, that's the only sandwich or wrap that they're rating right now. So I just think that there's going to be I mean, that's like the basic
Yeah.
white girl, and I can say that as a white girl myself for those not watching. That's like, that was like the girl dinner I feel like that we had, for anyway. So
Yep.
I was like, I would consider adding one. And then I don't know if you guys know Mark of Poppy Eats CLT, but he then did like this base. I mean, I don't know how many chicken Caesar wraps he tried. But it just shows you that like we do get trends from other areas of the world, obviously, but we also have a lot of transplants. And so like, just like looking and keeping an eye and seeing what other cities are doing, that we potentially like, get people from, or like that our people like visit often. Like those trends, especially in F&B, they do travel. And so like, once again, like reaching a different group of people that would like come in and be like, hey, I want that chicken Caesar wrap, or, know, and so, and typically, I bring those ideas to people. They're like, "Oh Lord, she's got an idea again. Like, here we go." And some they're like, "No, operationally, good try, absolutely not going to happen." And others are like, "Fine, we'll try it." And so it is kind of fun to see like when those do play out. But that's also like another thing that I do bring to my clients is like I'm constantly on a swivel, like of what's going on, what other people are doing, and not just in Charlotte. Like I'm from Atlanta, so I still have roots there. I have a lot of family in Tennessee. Like my brother and sister-in-law are in Nashville, which is obviously another great hotspot of like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah,
like, what's going on
here? Yeah.
And we love to travel, so like we'll do DC, New York pretty often, and then like we love Europe, so like keeping pulse on like London and Paris, just in general. So I think it creates a different vision for me of like what else what additional value add can I bring to my clients of like things that I'm seeing that I think are cool, or that Charlotte, we're definitely our own being and our own creature, but we do take tidbits from other cities. I think naturally everyone does.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. Charlotte's definitely that like melting pot. Like, hey, where are you from? How'd you get here?
100%.
Like
yeah.
Now in like with like a regionally focused like PR.
Yeah.
How much of the ratio is like strategy versus like making the connection?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it like a 50-50? Hey, who cares if we have all these connections if we don't have a strategy to meet them? Or is the strategy, hey, we got to get in front of this person?
Yeah. It's a little different, I would say. It depends, which is not helpful. But I would say I mostly focus on strategy. And like execution, mostly because execution for me is faster, if that makes sense. Like, my job is to have relationships with people, especially in the media space. And so if I have an idea that I'm like, ooh, that person's going to love this, it takes like one email. And it's like either
coming up with a good idea.
Yes.
That's the juice.
Yeah. And not only that, but I come to restaurants and I'm like, okay, like what do you guys have going on? They're like nothing at the moment. I'm like, that's not true. That can't be true. Like you're working with an ingredient, you're doing R&D on something that you're excited about, but it's just not ready yet. Like, can we do anything with that process? Or, it's just a new it's just one new cocktail. It's not a big deal, but like
make it a big deal.
Yeah. Well,
it could be a big deal.
Yeah. Like Little Mama's just did, Mary Wilson, their beverage director, just did a Cacio Pepe martini, and they're like, I think we're excited about this. And I was like, I know we're excited about it. Like this is going to be just the thought of it. Like what a cool combination of just something to talk about and something like how this inception can be. So I think it's a lot of it's a mix of both, but I feel like I'm more involved in meetings and strategy. And my job is to dig, so it's like, what do you have? And they're like, oh, we're busy. And I'm like, I know you are, but what else are you doing underneath that? So it's about like kind of like pulling back on like layers of onions, like to get to the middle and kind of see what I feel like people I know, and when I say people, I mean like writers or creators or whatever it is, would be interested and excited about. And if, the team's like, sometimes they're like, we have something, we're launching this, like Yafa's working on a smash burger and a pita right now to launch all the locations. And like,
nice.
It's very exciting. Like some people have tested it. They're testing it out at different locations, but it's like, okay, how do we like, that's easy for me to push, right? Like that, you already have the idea, I'm ready to connect. But then others of like the strategy of like, okay, do you have anything? They're like, I'm not sure. And I have to say Minnesota Smokehouse is a great idea of that. They're just like steady Eddie, like, barbecue, like,
this is what we do.
Yes. But they recently did an event, part of like the Carolina Barbecue Festival, like, and they did a pickin'. And so I was like, okay, great, love this. Let's just do a like content creator media dine around, like at the like pit masters who were involved. We started Midwood Smokehouse and we went to Sweet Lou's, and then we ended up Max Beach Shop because there were 3 of the 4 participating.
Sure.
The other one was John G's, but he was like, we can't drive all the way out here in a 2-hour span, So shout out to them because they were also part of the event. But it's how can we like still get in front of people, there's not necessarily something new they were working on, but like as a part of that activation was able to create like an additional like media opportunity out of it, if that makes sense.
Sure.
So that's kind of like, I feel like where my head is there something we can push? Great, I'll run with it. Otherwise, like what can we make that I can push?
Yeah.
So like a mix of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I usually am, I mean, it's a collaboration session, I would say, more than anything, of like, okay, is there something you're excited about? And then they kind of start talking and I'm like, I can work with that. Like I'll run with that. I can build on that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So like the story, like because the story has to like be authentic to the owner or the chef or like someone, like the brand of the restaurant is connected to like something in there.
Yeah.
So it's not like creating a story that's not there.
100%.
It's connecting the dots.
Yes.
I can work with that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like this. Okay, here's our narrative.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's all people are looking for is like, oh, this shop is this. It's owned by this type of person. They do this.
Yeah.
Like a quick little narrative.
Yeah. Like I will say recently, Kat Carter and Eric at Los Rica were like, hey, I think we're going to start this series. Like we're going to have people like start to take over our kitchen. We're going to call it Tuesday Takeovers. And I was like, amazing. I was like, what's the story behind it? Like, why are you doing this? Who are you partnering with? Like, what are we doing? And it like became much more than just like, oh, it's a space for people who don't have their own kitchen to serve a meal. Like it's created this like community since then.
Cool.
And it's just like, I'm like, okay, amazing, like done. But, in her mind, it was like, oh, like, we've just had people in our community needing a space to like, take over. And like, we have the staff, we have the space for it, like would love to house them. And they're friends of ours. And, just thought it'd be a fun thing to do to really like becoming something that people look forward to and like that sells out of like, a more of camaraderie, if that makes sense, which I think is really fun. So kind of like another example of, hey, we're working on this, but like, how can we go deeper into this narrative of why versus just like, oh, it's just an event. No, there's more to that. Like what's underneath the surface of what people might not see or might not understand of like what you're trying to create at Los Rica in general, but like not just on this event, but like always in the community of Charlotte. So, yeah.
Right. Yeah. The why. That is interesting. And like when you're piecing together the why and like the narrative of like what you could work with on the client side, is your brain firing and you're kind of going like, hey, for this outlet, the story is this, but for this other outlet, it's got to be more of like this angle. It's still kind of like the same thing, but you're highlighting different parts of the story.
Yeah.
So is that kind of the game you're playing a little bit?
Absolutely. And I will say too, like I love the game, but I hate the game at the same time.
Yeah.
And so if there are like certain things where I'm like, oh my gosh, like if it's one big quote unquote story, like I'll go take it like one place, like one person first. And I'll have the thought in my mind like, oh my gosh, so-and-so would love this. Let me take it to them. But if I would say if it's more of like event based, it's more of like a, guys, here's everything, like this is exciting. This is fun. This is great. If you want to throw it in your newsletter, would love it. But I would say like deeper stories, I try to be very intentional about like sending them to one person. And I think I just like the feedback I've gotten from people in the industry. It's just like that means more to them. And they were more excited to write the article when I'm like, hey, like, yes, it can be exclusive, whatever it is, but like I had you in mind for this. If like you don't have the time, capacity, or interest, no worries, but I'm coming to you first.
Sure.
And it does make a difference of who you talk to, and there are a lot of like outlets that are more like short form versus long form, and who's gonna be able to write a 2-page spread versus like a blurb, and there's a time and place for all of that. But I think it's more differentiating like what makes sense based on what the story is, or what the thought is, or is this a social media post, or is this a more like an actual story, or is it a TV segment, because it's a fun quick like make this dish, like tell us about the origin of it. And so it's kind of deciphering the difference, and there is some crossover, but I try not to have too much crossover because then I just feel like it hurts my relationships of the media, honestly.
Yeah, well, because as you were saying that, I was like, wait a minute, that wouldn't make sense, because like part of the, hey, I got to give this, like, one that made me, tangent of that is like, are there people who kind of do it in like a quid pro quo way? No. Like, well, if I give you this, I kind of sort of on like expect something later, like is that going on, or is that just like an idea in my like cynic head that like, oh, that's how that person did it?
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there is some of that going on. I'm just like way too honest about everything, and so like I like if a similar story runs in 2 different places, like I have people coming to me like, "Are you okay? Like, was this on purpose?" And because like they know that I'm not that type of person, you know. Like if somehow like stars aligned and someone was working on a story that ended up like shifting to be more about this person's story that they had both read, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so like that was not the intention, I promise. And but things morph and like times change, and I also like, can't control the schedule of when things are released. So like if there is something more general of like new menu items, for example, like I send those to basically everybody. Like, hey, these are exciting for, you know, whatever it is. We're excited about the change of seasons. And, you know, I feel like everyone get those emails. And so like if someone decides to run with it and then they publish it the same day, I'm like, I'm so sorry. Like I didn't, you know. So yeah, I would say it's definitely it's a game. But it's a game for me in the sense where like I want to be respectful of like if someone's committing to writing something, like my goal is not to screw you and have someone else write the same piece at the same time. Like because long term that does not
that doesn't work. They're gonna be like, well, I'm not gonna help her out. It's one and done kind of
thing. And I feel like for me, like I said, my goal is relationships and relationship building for longevity, and it just doesn't help. It's just like too catty, and I don't do that well.
Short-term win, long-term loss.
So I just try to be like very intentional and specific about who I like send something to. Especially if it's gonna be more of like I'd love for you to interview so and so, you know, like she's working on this Y or Z. Like QC Nerve earlier this year did this, like sat down with Carmen Vasquez, who's a chef partner at Yafo Kitchen, and she's been with the company for like 25 years, and she's like one of my personal heroes. I just think she is, everything she does is, anyways, she's very dear. And Ryan just sat with her and was like, hey, I'm going to talk to you about your life and tell me whatever you want to know. And he did such an amazing job with that piece, but I think it's because like I knew that Ryan would get along with Carmen. Like I knew that their personalities, and like Ryan would respect what I respect in Carmen, which is just like the life that she's built. I mean, she started from like the ground up, built her way. I mean, now she's an investor in like a number of concepts for FS Food Group. I mean, she's just that feel good, like she's a pillar of your community, but you don't know that she is. Does that make sense? She's like one of those people, and I feel like QC Nerve just does amazing profiles of people and just like community. And so I think that's a good example of just like, you know, I talked to Carmen, I was like, would you be interested in talking to somebody, you know, just about like your story and like your career? And she was like, I'm kind of nervous, but I think so. And Ryan was kind enough to come sit with her, and it just like, it was this beautiful, like I'm really proud of that piece and like that connection more so.
I did that.
Yeah, I mean, not like that, more of just is...
Put the stars, align the stars so that could happen.
Yeah, it's more of like I love what I do because of the people I get to work with, and like I wish I could have a piece designated to everybody. Like, I mean, I should open my own magazine, each page. Yeah. Someone that I love, like that I've worked with, you know, and like no one would read it because I wrote it.
Callie Monthly.
Yeah, not sure about that. But when those people are highlighted and they're like, and they show who they are, I just think we need more humanity. We need more like feel good, more connection, and humans connect with humans, and humans don't. That's my favorite part of branding and business in general is like I'm always trying to find the people behind who's doing X, Y, or Z, because I just think there's this deeper, stronger connection between humans and humans versus like humans and brands. And I think there are definitely like outliers for that. But you know, like I think, you know, people are attracted to that. Anyway, so that was like something I love to do. Specifically is like find the people behind and see how I can, you know, put them on a pedestal that they deserve to be on.
Yeah, that's great. One of my last questions is, so if you were going to talk to someone who say was like 25 and like they're interested in getting into like the PR world, would you recommend to that person that like, hey, start at an agency and see how the sausage is made, see like what pieces you like, what you don't? Or would you say, hey, double down on learning this and you can do your own thing? Like,
it's so different. It's funny, as I get connected with a lot of people of just like, hey, I have questions. Like, would love to meet for coffee. And I'm always open to doing that, if I'm being honest. But yeah, I think I love starting an agency because I got a lot of great training and new like processes. So I was able to like, from the get-go, I was like, oh, okay, this is how you do an agenda for a meeting. We're going to do a recap. You know, each week we're going to have a report that we're going to send, we're going to work on. But I'm very type A. So like that speaks to my, you know, very organized heart. But I also think like experience matters. And so however you're getting said experience is like very reputable in the marketing space. A lot of times people don't ask me like who I've worked for, it's who I've worked with.
Yeah.
And so I think it just depends, like it depends on the personality too. I'm very open about entrepreneurship. And I'm like, it's great, but it's also not all sunshine and rainbows. And for my personality, it's like good and bad that I have my own business because I am so overly devoted to it and so obsessed with it. That it works great for work side, but like personal side, like I'm like, sorry, husband, I'll see you in, next week kind of thing. So I think it just depends. I think you get amazing experience from agency, but I also think if you were to go out on your own and even get like one client and figure it out, you would figure out maybe even more than you would an agency.
Yeah.
Because agency, you're only allowed to see certain pieces, depending on which agency it is, of course. Yeah. But you are in a certain room versus like when you're doing it yourself, it's like, hey, I also would love for you to try social. And you're like, all right, like I'll do it, so I think it just depends on the person, but also that's me, once again, coming from a place of security with like being on my husband's insurance, like the safety net of being an agency, like is very alluring to me, especially as a young person.
That's key.
Yeah.
And, like you made a key call out of like, hey, while you're at an agency, maybe pick up your own client. Because like at the agency, you kind of see the pieces of the puzzle. Maybe you don't have your hands on all the pieces. But then you do that on the side and you go, oh, okay, now I understand why that piece is there. Sure. It's a pain in the ass and I think we could do it a different way, but now I understand why it's important.
Yeah.
And like that foundation of being able to like, okay, I can rely on my paycheck. I don't need to take on side clients I am not going to do well with. I'm not going to create success for.
Yeah.
And then I've seen a lot of people make the mistake of like, I'm done here, and they quit. And then like, I'm going to start my own business now. And then like, they don't really know what they're going to do. Mm-hmm. They don't really know. Mm-hmm. And they waste a lot of time where it's like, ideally, you would kind of have this transition period. Hey, I'm learning everything at the agency. Yeah. I just picked up a client or two.
100%.
And then, all of a sudden I got 3 clients. Hey, I can leave the agency.
Yes. Yeah.
And now you're not making decisions like out of desperation.
100%.
I need this client.
Which is key.
Oh, I know. I can't really do websites, but they need one. I'll do it.
Yeah.
You like take 1 step forward, 3 steps back.
Yes. Yeah.
So like
the clarity is really helpful. I feel like of being in that, I told someone recently, I was like, listen, if, she's not working right now, but I was like, just pick up 1 client. Like, just start. And then like word of mouth happens. Charlotte's a small city. It travels. But yeah, I would say when I thought like, oh, this is a business for me is when I picked up, I think like I went from like 1 to 3 clients and I was like, oh, this isn't like a cute little, you're sitting at home, like doing something.
Right.
So yeah. And I think that's also about like, I mean, the structure that I put in place for my business is like I have an accountant, like I'm a copywriter, okay? I'm a words girl, I'm not a numbers girl.
Got it.
So like there are certain things that I wanted to make sure that I could have in place, my own QuickBooks account, my own accountant, like more the back end.
Yep.
Thankfully my husband knows my contract, so like I have a literally in-house counsel in my house. But there are things like that you want a lawyer, like you want someone to do your contracts at least to start, and you can edit them on your own, or like just having that security. That's a part of it too, where I tell people, I'm like, you want to go on your own? It's not just, here's my, email address. Like there's more behind the curtain of it. And and you're on the hook for everything.
It's all on you.
Yeah.
For better or worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Terrifying for a lot of people, and it still is for me, but I try not to get like too excited or too depressed about anything. I try to stay like very much in the middle. I'm not great at it, but that's the goal. But so that's something else I tell people. I'm like, if you find yourself and also if you find yourself needing validation, being an entrepreneur, you do not get that. Yeah. That is something I talk about with my friends all the time. I'm not getting a pat on the back or a good job from clients, and I'm not expecting that from them, right? They call me when they need something. And usually that need is, I need you to do this. Like, I need more. I need, whatever it is. It's not, hey, I'm just going to call you to tell you you're doing a great job.
Right.
And I'm like, no, we don't get that. So you need that as a human.
Yep.
You got to find it other ways. Because I would get that in my old firm. Like my boss would check in and be like, hey, like, are you doing well? What's going on? Like, you're doing a great job here. If you need help here, it looks like you might need, some extra eyes or, whatever it was. It was much more of that on the agency side. So it's, also like what you want to do, personality based. I mean, there's a lot of factors into it, which is why coffee usually helps with people.
Yep.
And I can kind of help them go through, what do you actually want? Like, do you think you want this? And like in actuality, you want X, Y, or Z? Like, just at least I can share my experience of what I felt like things have transitioned.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. My last question. Now we're out of time.
Yeah.
But a lot of times you have said, hey, a lot of people like word of mouth, like they're coming to me.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's great. is there an example of like you're like, dude, if I could only just do this for you, like I see so much potential for you. I'm coming to you. Like, is there an example? Have you done that?
Gosh, I feel like I've tried. The most recent example is Pop-Up Bagels. So like in New York, found them a few years ago, just like long line. And when they came here, I was like, I would love to help you. I was like, I know you probably don't need this because your brand recognition, especially in Charlotte, like I felt that way with Van Leeuwen is like people recognize New York brands. Like thankfully they have a great, and Van Leeuwen's in those locations too, but Pop-Up's the same way. That was one where I was like, we could make this really fun. And I think they did a great job, but I was, of course, from like my perspective, I was like, we could have made this even better.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of, I don't like approach people that often. Mostly, I don't know. I don't even know why that is.
Well, if enough people are coming to you, you don't have to.
It's more of just like it's based on needs, you know.
Sure.
And so like I don't want to create, and I also don't know like I get a lot of, when I manage social media pages, I get DMs from people. It's like, your social media is pretty good, but I think it could be a lot better. Here's my information. And I'm like, hi, it's Callie Langhorne PR here. Like, thank you so much for that feedback. So like, I never want to be that person. You know what I'm saying? And I do feel like there's a little bit of that when you reach out to someone to be like, I will say I reach out to people and be like, hey, if you ever need assistance in like I do hourly, you know what I'm saying? And I think that's a different way to approach it. But I'm never like, hey, I saw this campaign. Like next time you should do this.
Next time, do it way better.
I also wish I had more time for that. You know what I'm saying? Like I wish I could sit there and be like, oh my gosh. I feel like I study like national brands more than that, where it's like more of a fun game of like, okay, that's cute, but I would have done this instead. Just because like it's a more fun game versus like local guys. Like, I don't know. I feel like if I try to be like more positive. I feel like if I go down a negative route, I just become a negative Nancy, and it's not a good way for me to go. So it's more of, I try to send more DMs of like, oh my gosh, that was a great campaign, or like, wow, congrats on the opening, versus like I would have done this differently. Once again, probably a terrible sales technique, where I'm congratulating like other people and doing like the work that I could have done, you know. But yeah, I don't have a good example of that, which is not a great
that's fine
answer. I'm so sorry.
No, if that's good. I wish it was like, hey, I got so many people come to me, I don't have to go talk to anybody. That's a great spot to be.
Oh yeah.
Well, where can folks find you if they want to look for you?
On Instagram, Callie Langhorne PR. Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn also. And I have a website too, so CallieLanghornePR.com.
Okay, and I'll link it in YouTube or wherever you're listening or watching. Callie, thanks so much for coming.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure.